When I woke up this morning, I was really thinking about a dream I had during the night. You ever had a good dream that's just like, to me, sometimes a good dream is like literally, I'm on the fairway of life. My Titleist golf ball is on the tee. They got that big Huey club, and they're drawing it back, and I get smacked almost 300 yards down the fairway of life. You ever been flying through the air like that, going, my God, that's a great dream. Screaming like a cartoon character, tongue out, arms out. Felt like that before? 4 or 5 times in my life, I've really felt like that. I'm a good little Catholic boy. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I was baptized in the Catholic Church. I was confirmed in the Baptist Church. And even today, when I travel and I have free time where I can spend some time traveling, the first stop I usually do when I have the chance, if it's in the capital of the state I'm in, or the capital of the province I'm in, or whatever, I find the cathedral. I walk in. I breathe that air. I touch the holy water. I go find the pew, and I just sit down. No, I don't attend a Catholic church today. I'm more of an evangelical. But my little Catholic bones, you can't change them. I'm so sorry. It's the dichotomy of my life. So a lot of me, I'm going to apologize just for you people that are, oh my God, talk about religious stuff. And public speakers, we always tell each other, never, ever apologize. And I've been kicked out of classrooms when I've heard people talk like I talk today. Because there was a time in my life when I was angry. Very, very angry. I was a belligerent little teenager. And when I say little, I mean, yeah, I'm 6'2", and right now I weigh about 240. In high school, I was 6'2", 180 pounds of raw anger. And Mr. Barnett, the last week of school, my junior year, in the history class at Bozeman Senior High School that I attended, asked us to write a paper for the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the historical importance of Jesus Christ. So I shared with Mr. Barnett what I thought of that question. I also knew that it was the last week of school and they couldn't kick me out because it didn't matter. So I shared with Mr. Barnett what I thought. But I want you to know, when I was 21 years old, and I love my little brother a lot. And he's in the Drug and Alcohol Treatment Center of St. Mary's Rehabilitation Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. All 4 of the other kids and my mom and dad were meeting with him at what was called a Family Week event. And I'm sharing with my little brother, Michael, what his drug addiction and alcoholism has created in my life. And I'm sitting across the chair from him, and he's in his chair, and I'm in my chair, in this Family Week setting, which is like 30 other people are all surrounded around us. And it's like, Michael, remember when we bought this marijuana? Michael, remember when we stole this beer? Remember when we did these drugs? And remember when we did this, and we did that? And about 15 minutes into that confrontation was the first time I physically felt my Titleist golf ball of life going down the fairway. And I knew at that moment in time that I was an alcoholic and I was a drug addict. There's just a couple things you don't do in a treatment center and in a family setting and in a family week setting is you don't stand up in that setting and walk out the door. But I did. Because there was no way I was going to stay in that room. Because I didn't know what happened to me. I didn't know what the tingling sensation going on in my body was. I didn't know what that cathartic moment meant. I didn't know what was really happening to me. I just knew that all of a sudden I needed to be somewhere else, and I left. Luckily, Mike Beresfield, who was the counselor at that time, followed me out the door and just didn't say a word. He just followed me. I walked out the front door of that treatment center, which is right there on the Mississippi River, the Minnesota River, I think. I'm not really sure which one it is. I just walked to that river parkway that was along the river edge and started walking. For 15, 20 minutes, Mike just walked with me. And then tears started to come down my eyes. And Mike said nothing. And then I stopped on the park bench by a bridge and sat down. And Mike just sat with me. And the only thing he said at that moment was, "Do you want to talk?" I looked at him, 21-year-old kid from Bozeman, Montana, wearing my button-down Levi's shirt. And I said, "What do I do? What do I do now?" And he said, "There's two choices. You can either continue the path that you're on, or you can change." The problem I faced is I had put a lot of vested time into this lifestyle. When I left Bozeman, Montana, Minneapolis, Minnesota, I had left my roommates with a lot of money because I was an entrepreneur. You're 21 years old in Bozeman, Montana. You leave your roommates with a lot of money because you're an entrepreneur. What does that mean? I was a drug dealer. I had a shipment coming in, and they need to get paid for. And I tried to explain that to the guy that was sitting next to me, and he said, "Here's your life, or you can change. The choice, Joe, is for you to decide." So we walked back to the treatment center. Mom and Dad met me in the cafeteria because that's where it was lunchtime, and they wanted to know what happened. And I told them, Mike, about all the things going on. I need to be in his seat. And they said, "Well, we're really glad," because we were scared. We didn't know what was wrong with you. We just knew something was wrong with you because of how you were acting and how you were living your life. And I just said, ay. So my little brother Mike met me later, and he took me to my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting that night. Being the good little Catholic boy that I am, I promised God, I promised Jesus, I promised every single angel that I could ever dream of, thinking of, whatever, that I was done with that lifestyle. And you want to know something? I meant it. And you want to know why I meant it? Because I am who I am. How many people know what is called en belay? Pretty much what that means is that when your butt is over the cliff, someone is holding the rope. And I'm it. I am today, even now, at 57 years old, the person that you want holding your rope. Because you know what? I am not going to let go. I will go over the cliff with you, but I will not let go of the rope. I am the person you want on that belay. And if I tell you I'm going to do it, it is going to happen. If it kills me, it's going to happen. Now, we come back to Bozeman, Montana from Minneapolis. My two roommates, Bruce and Hal, are waiting for me at the airport. At that time, you could still go into the airport and you could still look at the window and you could watch the planes come down and you could watch them land. They watched us land. I got off the walkway, and my best friend, Hal Blankenship, who I've known since 4th grade, which at that time was roughly 9-10 years, and we had been together inseparable, living together, hanging out together day after day after day, looked at me in the eye and said, "You're different. What's going on?" Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And he said, "And by the way, we got the shipment, and we got some out in the glove box car waiting for you. I want you to know it's my little brother Wade's 18th birthday." No, we had a promise for everybody in our friendship circle. At that time, the drinking age in Montana was 18. The promise was, on your 18th birthday, we would take you to Livingston, Montana, and we would get you incredibly drunk. The fun fact was, because you're a guy, we would spray you down with Nair. And we would turn you into a chihuahua. We would take you out on the road towards Gardner to the 3 little houses that sat out there that were what we would call cat house or whore house. And we would drop you off with a $100 bill taped to your head. That was our birthday present to you. Incredibly drunk, bald, and a night on the town. And that was what was going to happen for Wade. I'm in a pickle. Common sense says you don't get in the car. Common sense says you don't go with your friends. Common sense says you follow your mom and dad and you go home with them. But I went with Bruce and Hal because I knew who I was. I wasn't going to drink. I don't know when it happened, how it happened, or what was going on, but I remember ordering orange juice. I remember ordering sodas. I remember ordering orange juice. I remember ordering sodas at the Long Branch Saloon. But I'm also going through the plate glass window of the Long Branch Saloon drunk because I'm in a fight. I remember waking up on the Bozeman Hill sick. And I have no idea how it happened, even today, 36 years later, how that all happened. We get back to Belgrade, Montana, and we have a nice apartment. Nice apartment. And I have a really awesome lounge chair that I used to love to sit in. And I'm sitting in that lounge chair, pretty mad at myself. Because it's not what I wanted. It's not how I wanted it to be. I wanted to know something, that I have an incredible fondness for people. I love people. I love life. I think life rocks. I think that there is nothing that makes me happier than to hang out with people and to watch people, because I love people. In that lounge chair that night, I'd have done anything to turn the clock back. But there's no way to do that. When it's done, it's done. There's lots of cool commercials about two cars coming at each other at warp speed, and all of a sudden the cameras slow it way down, and the guys open up the car doors and they look at each other like, wow, we're going to get in a wreck. And it's like, yeah, we are, but my son is in the back seat. Can you not hit me? And it's like, I'm so sorry. We're going to get in a wreck because you shouldn't have pulled out in front of me. You should have been paying attention. You should have been doing something different than you were doing. And the guy goes, yeah, I know. And they both get back in the car. Boom, wreck happens. You don't see what happens in the aftermath afterwards. You just see the exploding glass and the crunching of the cars as the two impact. And that's what I felt like that moment in my lounge chair, Belgrade, Montana, drunk and high. Because we did have some really good marijuana that we had purchased. And it was sitting there beside me. And it was powdery. It smelled wonderful. And I started smoking it. We also had some really good White Crosses, Speed, Black Mollies. And I ate those. And I had about a fifth of vodka. And I drank that. And there's not a suicidal bone in my body. I'm a strapping, powerful 21-year-old kid at that time. But I woke up sometime in the mid-morning with my best friend Hal shaking me, crying. 21-year-old men do not cry, especially cowboys like we were. We don't cry. And he, my friend, is crying. And he's saying, man, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I called your mom, I've called your dad, and they're on their way to help. Because I had puked, I had pooped, and I had peed myself. My body had quit that night. But I was alive. My mom took me home with my dad after they loaded me in the back of the Suburban, and then they cleaned me up. And I'm laying in my bed, in my house, in my room that I had grown up in. My mom and dad didn't say anything. They didn't try to lecture. They didn't try to cajole. They didn't try to do anything other than help, which is they just took me home. Let me get cleaned up. Let me lay in bed. And about 6 o'clock that evening, I still couldn't eat. My mom walked in with a book called Alcoholics Anonymous and another book called The 12 Steps and the 12 Promises. And she held them out to me. And she said, we don't have the money to give you a Harvard education, but we can give you this. And we're going to your first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in Bozeman, Montana, tomorrow night. I was way too sick. There's no way I'm going to read. I'm way too tired. There's no way I'm going to read. I just went to sleep. But the next morning I got up and I did eat. That evening I did go to the meeting with my mom, embarrassed. How many people at 21 years old want to go somewhere like that, admit something like that with their mommy in tow? But I did it. because the words that Mike Beresfield had told me were ringing loudly in my head. You can do this, or you can do that. The choice is up to you. I'm in this meeting, and there's this old lady who I've known since the second or third day we had moved to Bozeman, Montana in 1966. Betsy. Awesome old lady. Awesome old lady that didn't like to wear her dentures. She always took them out, put them beside her. So she started flapping her gums, literally. And she looked at me and she said, honey, are you through? Are you finished? Have you had enough? It was, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I didn't understand what power meant. Because I said I was done, I honestly thought I was done. How many people remember this an old thing? Yul Brynner, and I think it's like the 10 Commandments, and he would say, so it is written, so let it be done. That's what I lived by. But marijuana had more power than I did. Drugs had more power than I did. If I could have figured out how to take a bath in warm vodka and just go underneath the vodka and take a big old drink and come back up, as disgusting as that sounds, I'd have done it. I didn't know how to stay stopped. I was really good at throwing things out the window 9 blocks later, just literally to turn around and go back and get it and pick it back up and consume it. I was good at stopping, not staying stopped. But that old lady, when she looked at me, when she was flapping her gums and she said, honey, are you through? I finally comprehended what it meant in all of its totality. I finally got it. It's either this or it's this. And I wanted this. And I started on that journey, and I started walking the path of staying stopped. I had to leave Bozeman. I had to go back to Minnesota, go back to the treatment center. Found myself in a halfway house after the treatment center was completed. And they put me in a room with Jerry. How many people understand what a handsome man really is? Jerry was it. In Minneapolis, he was a Dayton's model. He would try on all the clothes. You saw him on billboards. You saw him on buses. You saw him in the catalog that got mailed out to people's homes. He was chiseled. And he was incredibly handsome. And he was black. And he was gay. Now I'm a white guy, cowboy, and in Bozeman, Montana in 1979, there was maybe 5 black people. So I didn't get that. So I would come to bed with the lights off as late as possible, hoping that he was asleep. Get undressed, get underneath the covers, tuck him in as best I could, and sleep with the proverbial one eye open, because I'm in the bedroom with a black gay man. Jerry, God love him, let me do that for almost 6 weeks. I woke up that one of those mornings when it's towards the end of the 6 weeks, and he's sitting there on his bed waiting for me to wake up, smiling at me, because we become kind of friends. And he said, Joe, I want you to know something. I don't like white meat. You have nothing to worry about. Why are you still so worried? And we started to become very, very, very good friends. And what Jerry allowed me to do was to come to terms with one of the things that was incredibly bugging me then. In Bozeman, Montana, there's a bar called the Black Angus. In the late 70s, the Black Angus got nicknamed the queer steer. Because at that time, the gay crowd was taking over that because it was a disco and they wanted to have their own little bar. Me and about 5 of my friends decided to go clean up the queer steer. And during that cleaning up, I grabbed a hold of one guy and I brought him in close with my hands holding on to his scruff of his shirt, and I'm swinging and I'm seeing Malcolm Reynolds, one of my best friends from growing up. And I knock him out. And I put my boots to him. One of my best friends from growing up. Now, how do you make an amend to someone for that? And what Jerry taught me was for me to figure out who is it that I need to have make an amend to me. I had a few people that had done me wrong. And he said, what is it that you would like them to say to you? Do you want them to get in this big song and dance about how blah, 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 and they're not telling the truth? Or do you want them just to honestly come to you and say, Joe, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. And I'm sorry. He helped me figure out how to make the amend I needed to make to my friend. And unfortunately, I never got to make it. Malcolm died of AIDS before I ever had a chance to find him. Today, that amend still is unmade. But I honestly believe Malcolm knows just how sorry I am. Because I never should have done what I did. What I wanted to also finish up with is something that I've really come to have to struggle with. It comes from Marianne Williamson. I've known this quote off and on throughout probably 20 years. And that's what woke me up this morning when I decided what I really wanted to get across to people is how to capture something. And her quote goes, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, or fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously